10 years ago, we got the original How to Train Your Dragon. And since then, we've had books, movies, TV series, even Netflix. And some spin-offs, including 9 Realms. But never did we think that it would get a live action. Disney made some decent ones like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and then some tougher to rank ones like Lion King and then the prequel Mufasa. But today, June 13th, we got the live action How to Train Your Dragon. And today, I said before, I am not alone. Now, I have a very special guest. It's not anyone else you've seen on the channel, but I'm mentioning Reveal Thyself, my Pokemon Dragon amigo.
Hey, what is up, guys? Force Major Productions here. As you guys may know, me and Garrett have done collabs on my channel before, but Garrett has his very own character. In fact, he was one of the originals to do so. I believe you were the 4th person to have their own character on the channel after myself, Evan, and Andrew.
Yep, that's right, folks. We got my boy Phoenix on the channel. So, we both seen the How to Train Your Dragon film, and today we are going to review it. Honestly, just...
Now,
Phoenix, go first.
Now, I personally had a lot of doubts about the remake, especially when I heard it was going to be live action, because most of the time, live action remakes of animated films are not as good as original. But I was happy to say that I was wrong about this remake. It more than lived up to the original.
You got that right, Phoenix. This film was absolutely insane. So, we might go into a little spoiler warning, but it's mostly going to be spoiler... Actually, we're going to do both spoiler-free and then a spoiler review, because holy crap, this film was amazing. So...
Putting it lightly.
Yeah. You got that right, Phoenix. This film set the standard for live-action films, and Disney definitely had some decent ones in the past, like I said before, but honestly, it was crazy. Starting off with the cast, let's get it out of the way. Gerard Butler coming back.
Yeah, the legacy legend as Stoic the Fast, from being a voice actor to actually playing the legendary Viking himself in live-action remake. Perfect casting.
Agreed. I gotta say, it was incredible to see Gerard back, and I gotta say, he looked amazing as Stoic. Then again, it was gonna be obvious, because... And then we got the rest of the cast is new. So for Hiccup, we had Mason Dames. Honestly, I kind of liked his portrayal. I really loved Mason's portrayal on Hiccup.
And of course, Nicole Parker, everyone doubted her because she looked nothing like Astrid, that she was going to do a terrible job, but she was by far one of the best new actors to come for the remake, and I honestly can't wait to see how her and the others do it for the second film.
I gotta agree. I was a little worried about the hate that she was getting, but when the movie came out, she blew it away. And then we had, of course, Gabriel Howell as Snotloud Jorgensen, Julian Dennison as Fishleg Zingerman.
Yeah. Snotloud, oi, oi, oi!
There it is! And then we also have, as I said, Julian Dennison as Fishleg Zingerman, Harry Trevelyan as Tough Nut, and Bronwyn James as Rough Nut.
Yeah, also, can we just talk about the fact that Astrid wasn't the only character who looked nothing like the animated version. Both Fishlegs and Rough Nut were completely different as well, but no one mentioned that.
I'm kind of surprised no one thought of that. Julian did look a little similar to Fishlegs, I will give him. He did do well, but Bronwyn and the animated live-action Rough Nut, those two were the most different. I mean, come on. But I gotta say, it was a nice touch.
Yeah, definitely.
And now let's get on to the dragons. First up... Oh, you first?
Of course, Toothless was complete nailed. It looked exactly like the Toothless we got from the animated original.
Agreed. Toothless was just... they had to keep the OG dragon the same. But then there's, some unique ones, like the Deadly Natter. That one kind of shocked me. They kept a little bit different. But I still liked her design.
Yeah.
And then, The one that I think changed
Stormfly
some...
is a great dragon.
Agreed, Stormfly. And then there was Hook Fang, who looked terrifyingly beastly.
Yeah.
It was...
A couple of my friends, including Dora, even mentioned that the fight between Hook Fang and Toothless was actually way better in the remake than it was in the original, and I don't agree.
Yeah, a lot of scenes were definitely kept in and either modified or, like, increased. Like, there was one scene in the original film that was was changed. It was the dragon imp, but it was turned to him sneezing, which was hilarious to see them sneezing.
Yeah. I will say that I do wish they kept my favourite hiccup line from the original in the remake. Excuse me, barmaid, you know a wolf streak? Or did extra large boy with beef in the arms, extra cousin glory on the side? This is the whole talking fish board.
Okay, yeah, I kind of agree. That one I do wish they kept in. But one of my favorite Tough Nut lines they kept in. I am hurt! Very much hurt!
Yeah, very much hurt.
I'm glad they kept that in.
That is honestly Tough Nut's catchphrase.
Agreed.
I mean, they had to keep that in. It's his catchphrase.
Agreed. And then but we got a little more into depth on Snout Loud in this film, surprisingly.
Yeah. Because in the original, we didn't really see much of a relationship between him and his father, Spike Loud, but in the remake, we did see somewhat of a relationship between them.
How he wants to prove himself to Spike Loud. Sort of like how he wanted to prove himself in Race to the Edge.
Not to mention the Fall Fest games in, I think it was Riders a Bug?
I think the only one I've seen is Race to the Edge, so you would know more about that than me.
Well, basically, the Vikings had their own version of the Olympics called Fall Fest, and apparently the Jorgensen clan won every single year, but Snout Loud was almost the first ever case where they didn't win.
Wow! Damn.
Also, funny fact about Spike Loud in the animated side of How to Train Your Dragon, he is voiced by David Tennant.
Wait, what?
Yeah! The Doctor Who actor and the voice of Professor Hu Yang in Star Wars voices Spike Loud.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, and then there was another unique case for characters. Nick Frost as Gobber, which both are actually similar because Nick Frost has a missing leg, but his leg was different. So basically, what the director did, he changed it for Gobber to have the same leg as Nick Frost was missing. So W move, Dean. W move.
Yeah.
And then,
speaking of the director, he actually did something really wholesome for Gerald Butler. Because during production of the remake, Gerald Butler's mother sadly passed away, and the director gave a tribute to her in the credits.
they did?
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, honestly, DreamWorks has been doing a lot of W's. And anyways, back to the Dragons. Barv and Belch definitely had seen a lot of differences. They looked like cousins of the Terrible Tata.
Yeah. Yeah. Still pretty funny dragon though.
I agree. And speaking of the Terrible Terror, they're still adorable. They are still adorable.
Adorable but menaces.
Yep.
That's tough not learn the hard way.
Yeah, agreed. But I do wish they kept the whole dragons aren't so fireproof on the inside seed, but honestly, it was fun. Yeah. And then there was Meadluck, who is Dorpy. She's Dorpy.
Yeah, that's just typical Meadluck.
True. But then let's get to the main villain.
Oh,
you first.
the Red Death.
Yeah. Holy crap. This thing is terrible. It was terrifying. Oh my god.
And let's not forget, one scene I'm really glad they added to the remake, we actually see Stoic's fleet of Viking ships being attacked by the dragons. Because in the original, we never saw that.
Right. And I think from what I saw in the pictures, it was a sea shocker.
Yeah. It was definitely an oceanic dragon, and it did look like a thunder drum or a squadron, so it had to be a sea shocker.
Yeah. which was one of the many Easter eggs we've gotten. And apparently there was merch for the Skrill and Rumblehorn, so people thought both would be in the movie.
Yeah.
Which they were.
And I didn't spot the Skrill personally, but I know it definitely appeared within the Book of Dragons itself. I don't recall seeing one physically.
Yeah, it was crazy to see him, and I know the Rumblehorn could be seen like in the trailers, like the original trailers where they're all flying out of the Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
But Skrill was definitely harder to spot.
I spotted the Rumblehorn in film.
Yeah, and then...
But can you imagine if they did live-action remakes of shows? Imagine a live-action Screaming Death.
Oh my gosh, that'd be terrifying. That'd be terrifying. I mean, the Screaming Death's already terrifying, but... Anyways, the story is pretty much similar, but with some minor differences. Like, as Phoenix has mentioned, the barmaid, the whole line with Hiccup saying where his dad was like, he wanted a buff boy, like a buff son, like Snarloud, wasn't in there. And as I have mentioned, the terrible terror scene where he's not so fireproof on the inside wasn't there, but everything else was kept. And surprisingly, we got a little more in-depth on Astrid and Hiccup in this.
Right.
Which was very good to see their more in-depth story. And a lot of the scenes were kept.
I'm glad that they kept in Astrid punching Hiccup and then saying something like, "That's for scaring me," or "That's for kidnapping me."
Pretty
and
much,
she
yeah.
just kisses him.
That's for everything else.
That's for everything else.
I'm glad they kept that in too, because otherwise we wouldn't have had Hicstred in live action, which, honestly, it was a W move. And then let's just go over to music. Same director, John Powell. Holy crap. This guy went all out.
He is the John Williams of DreamWorks. They are both legends in their own right.
Facts. And don't get me started on the test drive and romantic flight scene musics. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Those
and I still think,
were nuts.
Yeah, test flight.
Test flight. Test flight. Test flight.
Yeah, my sister actually showed me a video that I never actually considered about test flight. About the way John Powell made this background music for test flight, it actually perfectly in syncs with how Hiccup and Toothless is flying.
Wow.
Because like at the start, the music is all wild because obviously they're not used to flying together. But then as they get more in sync,
it's more synchronized.
Evens out.
Oh, that's right. I did notice that. Oh, I mixed them around. It was test. You were right. It was romantic flight, not. Gosh dang it. That's fine. But still, though, overall, there are some minor nitpicks that both of us have. But overall, this movie was so damn good to watch, and it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah.
Honestly, and
I actually saw the remake in the same cinema that I saw the original in, and when I was watching the remake, I honestly felt like 10-year-old me watching the original for the first time all over again. That's how good it was.
Wow, it came around full circle for you. I managed to get the original on DVD, like, I think sometime last year, and then, like, a few months later, I managed to watch it in its full glorious beauty, but remade into live action. So, I think you gave it a 9.5, right, Phoenix?
Yeah, it only lost the half point because my favorite Hiccup line was removed from the remake.
I will agree. It did lose some points when I saw that, but after things just went beautifully, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 just got knocked down. I'm sorry to say it as Sega fans, but How to Train Your Dragon is, of course, gonna be my all-time favorite film. There was another one that was gonna come up
because you were constantly telling me to watch the Sonic films.
It's true. I was telling him in our little chat we have with a few others. Shout out to Judah and Crimson, by the way. If you watch this, you guys, shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. Yeah, I've been telling all of them to watch it, and honestly, Phoenix, you don't regret it, do ya?
My only regret regret is I didn't see the films in the cinema.
You did not.
That's my one regret.
Yeah, and in quite a few years with How to Train Your Dragon 2's live action, also Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is coming out in 2027. So maybe you'll get a double film review from us.
Yep. Let's not forget that the How to Train Dragon 2 remake is being filmed in my home country of England, specifically over in London.
This is true. I can confirm. I did see something on that and send it to him. So, and actually, ironically, my buddy Ty, who also appeared on the channel, is also from England as well. So it's also filming in his home turf as well. So, yeah. So, overall, Phoenix and I both loved the film. A few nitpicks, like with a few major scenes, like bartender wanting that Stoic wanted a buff kid, and the dragons aren't so fireproof on the inside film. This is a damn good film. Best film ever.
I actually saw someone comment that removing the scene where Hiccup realized that dragons aren't fireproof on the inside ruined the entire film, but I gotta disagree with that.
Yeah, I gotta disagree.
As much as the scene was removed, it was still a great film.
I agree. Still a damn great film. So, yeah, I think we've said enough.
One of my all-time favorites. One last thing. One of my all-time favorites added parts to the remake was the extended conversation between Hiccup and Astrid after the Book of Dragons was brought out.
I agree.
There are opposing views. Like, Hiccup is starting to think that the dragons aren't bad. Astrid still thinks they are. And it just perfectly sets up for when Astrid meets Toothless and eventually changes her mind.
Oh, and one more thing. I do wish they kept the whole da-da-da, we're dead scene. Where Toothless just derpily walked away. I do wish they kept that, but overall, this was a damn good film, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it. What are you guys doing? So, that'll be it for today. Massive shout out to Phoenix for showing on.
Yep, and shout out to Garrett's channel, which I believe is also called Rebelzilla.
Guilty as charged, Phoenix. Guilty as charged. So, I'll link my boy Phoenix's channel in the description below.
Let's not forget Hiccup's best line directed to us. Thank you for nothing.
You useless reptile. So yeah, that's gonna be it from us today. Thanks for coming on to the show, Phoenix. Always a pleasure to have you around, man.
No problem.
So this is Rebelzilla 31.
Force Spectrum 19 signing out, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Let's do this, Majors and Simmers.
Keep it cool, keep it fresh. Also, hey, that's what I used to call my fans back in the day when I first started Instagram. Let's keep it cool, keep it fresh, everyone. And as Phoenix said, let's do this, Majors!